Hi, I'm Daphne and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be taking you through all the books that I read in January and February, with a couple spillover from the end of December. If you end up liking the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already. You can hit the bell icon if you want to get notified every time that I post, since I post a little sporadically. Also, you can find me on Instagram at DaphneGin, which I've linked down below. So if you're interested to see all the books that I read in the last couple of months, just keep watching. So the two books that I read in December, I don't physically own. I got them at the library. The first one I read was Crescent City by Sarah J. Maas. I didn't particularly think she was gonna be my style, but everybody talks about her on BookTube. So I wanted to give it a shot, and apparently this is like her first official adult series. And let me tell you my original fresh thoughts that I wrote on Goodreads. I gave it 3 stars. I said decent, enjoyed for the most part, way too long, pissed the love interest didn't get it on, dang it. Also, we spend so much of this book on a mystery they never solved themselves. The author just has the villain explain what really happened at the end. Lame, and a waste of so many effing pages. Jesus. So I was a little angry. Upon reflection, I'm not that angry anymore, it's just a book. But yeah, looking back, I'd say it's definitely got adult themes with drug use and partying and death and things like that. But it was just way too long. It was 600 pages, and most of the pages you're trying to figure out this mystery that they're just going the wrong way the whole time, and she just never solved it herself. Honestly, I probably would have rated it higher if she was able to have a real spicy moment with the angel guy, but that just didn't fucking happen. I was so disappointed. As I'm trying out these Sarah J. Maas books, I'm figuring out that it kind of gives Twilighty vibes, where a lot of young women will be obsessed with it, but it's not that great of writing or plot. Yeah. I mean, Crescent City was better than A Court of Thorns and Roses, which I'm just finished last night and I'll talk about in a future video. Oh, I didn't even tell you what Crescent City was about. It's a fantasy romance. This girl's best friend died and she's trying to solve the mystery of what happened, and there's this sexy fallen angel guy that's working with her, and they're trying to solve the mystery, and there's a lot of political stuff, and they live in this urban city with all these fantastical creatures with werewolves and angels and different kinds of groups of people throughout this metropolis. And the fallen angel guy is trying to he's just trying to become free and stuff like that, because he's bound to this man. He's basically his slave. And the main girl, she's half human, half fae, and it's just being in that world. But I mean, I guess if the people really like the world, that's maybe why they would rate it higher. It's a lot of pages for not a lot of purposeful plot pathing. Anyway, that's enough of that. So the next book that I read that I mentioned I got from the library was a romance. It was called The Hating Game. It's about this woman named Lucy and her coworker named Joshua. They're both assistants to their CEOs, but the company had a merger. So the CEOs kind of fight with each other. The two main characters fight with each other a lot, and it's this game. And it's described as her having, oh, today we're doing the staring game. Whoever looks away first concedes to I don't know, losing. They have all these stupid, silly games that aren't fun for her. They're competitive. I hate him. He can't beat me even at these stupid little games. But it's funny. I literally was reading the first chapter and I was laughing out loud. And the romance is really sweet. So I guess this is a hate to lovers story. I gave it 4 stars on Goodreads. I initially thought, oh yeah, I just left a super short review. Literally laugh out loud funny, that's all I wrote. But yeah, I did enjoy it. It was a fun ride. It was cute to see how she learned more about her coworker and his true feelings about her, and it wasn't that deep, but it was fun. I would recommend it. So the next 3 books I read in January. I got this from Book of the Month, and it's in Holidaze by Christina Lauren. I've read from Christina Lauren a bunch. I have ebooks on my phone from her, or this author duo. This book was not good in my opinion. It's kind of like a Groundhog Day moment where the main character keeps reliving this family Christmas holiday out in the cabin with their family friends, and she finds out that they're going to sell the cabin, and she's scared that all her traditions are going to be lost and that things aren't going to be the same between the friend group. She's a grown adult. She's like in her 20s. She's always had a crush on the older brother of her family friends, but she accidentally drunkenly kisses the younger brother, and she gets like in this groundhog scenario where she jumps back to the start of the vacation, and she's trying to correct her mistake with the guy and get the brother to fall in love with her, the brother that she likes. I did not enjoy this. I think the Groundhog Day experience was like a third of the beginning half of the book, and then it was like never addressed really ever again. Like there was no point to that. I thought most of the characters were one-dimensional. The main love interest I thought was super flat and boring, and I was confused because I was like, it's 2 brothers, so I was kind of like rooting for the underdog brother. I was like waiting to get to know the boy that or the man she accidentally kissed, and I was like, oh, maybe it's like he's in love with her and like I'm supposed to be rooting for him, but like you barely get to know him, and then when the little snippets you get, like he's super weird in a way that is like not appealing. Like everybody can be weird, but I don't know. I was like, I can't root for this guy, like what? Okay, I'll just tell you my initial thoughts when I finished it. I gave it 1 star, which is really bad. I said, was confused from the start which man I was supposed to be rooting for. Characters were flat and boring. Skimmed the last 30 pages to just get the book over with. I forgot I did that. Hardly any conflict between the brothers, which would have made the story more interesting. I actually thought it would be a redemption story for Theo, which was the brother she accidentally kissed, the younger brother that she wasn't in love with, and that he was her true love. But we know hardly anything about him for half the book, and then find out he's weird and cringy at times. Like, what was with his parrot tattoo? I don't know. I just kept saying the whole book that I was confused. Andrew, the main character, was so boring. Ugh, disappointing. Yeah, it was really disappointing. I mean, I like read it in 3 days, but I know this duo can do a lot more. Like, I'm still interested in reading some of their other books. I'll probably just get them from the library versus buying them, unless I can get the ebook for like a couple bucks. But yeah, this was really disappointing. And I know I'm not the only one that was disappointed reading this. It just didn't make sense. It was just weak. It felt like they had an idea for a Christmas book, and they were like, oh, we only have 6 months till Christmas. Let's just like try to bang out a book really fast and get it published. And it just was like, it was just weak. It didn't make sense, and it wasn't that fun. I'll talk about the next 2 books together. I read back to back From Blood and Ash and A Kingdom of Flesh and Fire. I got these off Amazon. I saw people on BookTube talking about them. They said they were steamy and fun and paranormal with mystery and stuff. So I don't want to tell you too much, because the first book, you're like confused most of the time. You're like, I don't understand what this Poppy girl's ritual she's supposed to be like doing is about. So basically the story starts out, there's this girl Poppy. She lives in this paranormal world that's ruled by these types of people that are very powerful. She doesn't really know all that much about them. As you're reading it, you don't really know what their deal is. They're very mysterious beings, but they suppress like the normal human population. She's human, but she's considered the maiden, which makes her special for some reason. She doesn't really know why she's special, and we, as the reader, don't know why. For like majority of the book, we're kind of like uncovering it, but they keep her away from everybody. No one's supposed to talk to her. No one's supposed to look at her or interact with her or touch her, which is kind of like a weird thing to mention, but like, that's what it says on the back. She's protected in like this castle with some of the powerful beings. But one night there's like an attack, and her main bodyguard gets murdered, so they need to replace him. And they replace him with this guy named Hawk, who is our love interest. And there's a lot of things revealed in this story. I wouldn't say it's like the best book. There's a lot of stuff that you're kind of like frustratingly confused. The girl character can be somewhat annoying, like especially in the continuation. She's doing a lot of shit where I'm like, dude, just open your eyes and stop like being self-destructive, you know? But it's still fun once you like get through some of the boring shit or like the frustrating shit. Some people do compare these books to Sarah J. Maas. Like, if you enjoy Sarah J. Maas, read these books. I guess maybe that's true, but I definitely thought this plot line had more direction. And I think that might be my personality, where like I want to know what we're driving towards. Like, what am I trying to figure out? Like, you know, what's gonna happen at the end? Like, I need something to drive towards. If we're just like floating around in nothingness and we're just hanging out with a character and she has no purpose or like goal, or she's trying to achieve something, I just feel lost and I don't enjoy that. So this definitely has more of that compared to some of the other books I've read. Oh, and they're hella steamy. They're not this like the most explicit things I've ever read, but they're still really, really, really fun. And it doesn't always need to be super, super, super explicit. I'd say this is like medium to high explicit, but like I read some like X game level explicit before, so. But like this is a good, fun, steamy series. And the next one, the third one, is coming out I think in April. And I pre-ordered it. I don't know when. Oh no. Yeah, I'll still be here. Okay. I thought I'm moving, so. So that's like the first one. I don't know if I really have to tell you that much about the second one, because so much is revealed in the first one that would like, if I tell you anything about here, it's gonna get spoiled. So I can't really tell you anything about this one. But I'll tell you my ratings and stuff. From Blood and Ash, the first book, I gave 4 stars. I said, rating improved due to the last 150 pages. Readers left, a bit annoyingly, too much in the dark of the plot, but it finally gets revealed at the end, which was interesting. Trying to figure out some of the mystery was fun, sexy even though it's not too detailed in those scenes, at my level, you know. Okay, and then the second book, I gave 3 stars. So I gave it 3 stars, and I said, enjoyed the ride and the steam, though a lot of the combos felt slightly repetitive. She was being so dense, which I get, but it was so frustrating. Plot points mentioned in the synopsis didn't happen until way later than I would have anticipated. It was like a lot and a little happened for such a large book. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense now that I'm like remembering. The back of the book, like those plot points were like irrelevant to the story for like 80% of the pages. And usually like the synopsis tells you like what's gonna happen in the beginning, and then you try to, you know, you enjoy the journey after and you figure out what's going on. But like this book was like backwards. It was literally an exact continuation of the first book. So like the sentence it finishes on in the first book is right where we pick up in the second book. So like most of the second book is getting to the synopsis of the second book. So it's like the first book, and it just continues into the second book, and then we get to the synopsis of the second book, and then it's like over. Which is a choice. It was still a fun ride, though, for the most part. I mean, it's not the best like work of fiction, but I'm entertained enough to want to stay with these characters and see what happens. There's still a lot of mystery going on surrounding our girl Poppy, and I want to know what it is. Hopefully the author knows what it is. Like, I'm trusting her to like have the whole line of story figured out and isn't just like winging it. That would suck. But yeah, I mean, generally on Goodreads, it's rated really, really well. But that might just be like fandom girls. Okay. God, I'm getting overdoing this already. Okay. Let's power through this. So the next 3 books I read in February. The first one I'm going to talk about I got out at the library. I picked this because it was a recommendation from a booktuber that I really like. She tends to read a lot of weird, like fantastical books. So I picked up Middlegame. This was about alchemy and this Frankenstein-esque creature trying to become a god and control like the universe and the doctrine, as he called it. So he put the doctrine in 2 parts into these human twins named Roger and Dodger. He's experimenting on them and stuff, but like the point is that he doesn't want to experiment on them in the lab. He needs them to be like more human and have experiences and stuff. So they're like out in the world separated from each other, but they can like read each other's minds and stuff. So throughout time, like we are going through like a big chunk of their life. Like we go from like them being born to being like in their 30s. I mean, I guess it's not a big chunk of their life, but it's like a larger span than you usually spend with a character in a book. And it was just very strange. So Roger is the boy, and he is an expert with like words. Like He's really good at manipulating the world around him through words as he's learning his power. And Dodger is the sister, and she's a genius with numbers, and she can manipulate the world as she learns about her powers through numbers. The only thing that I struggled with this, because I don't read a lot of like fantastical, like weird books, is that I like to understand how shit works. So like if they're saying it's science and not just like straight magic, I'm gonna wanna know like the logic. And like alchemy isn't real, so how can you put a doctrine into humans and then they have powers, you know? Like I really had to like suspend my disbelief for that, and obviously I think that's the point, but for me, like when it's gonna be called science, I wanted to like feel like, oh yeah, that could make sense. Just like theorizing on how it would work. Personally, I enjoyed the second half of the book more because it added an element to the plot that I find truly, truly, truly fascinating as a topic point, but I don't want to tell you what that is necessarily if you're gonna read it. You know what? Fuck it, I'll just tell you. So the element that they added in the second half has to do with like time and manipulating time and going back in time and going forward in time and being on two different like dimensions in time, and that stuff I find really, really interesting. So when they got into that, I was like more invested in the story. But the first half is like them growing up and like interacting with each other even though they're not physically together, and figuring out if the other person's real and stuff like that. Like I think it was important to build the story, but personally I just thought it was a little boring. Let me tell you what I initially wrote about it. So I rated it 3 stars on Goodreads. I said, enjoyed the later half of the book. Once the plot started to pick up, I'm glad I remember that. The time traveling was interesting. Personally, I would like to understand what is going on, and most of the time I had no clue what the author was talking about. What is the Impossible City? Ah, yes. So they're like trying to get to the Impossible City, which the Frankenstein guy was like trying to get access to so he could become a god, but it's not like a physical place. It made no sense to me at all. But if you read this book, like let me know what you think, and like can you explain anything to me, because I read it and I was like, God, 75% of that I did not understand what was happening because it was just too weird. Okay, so the next book I read was Trevor Noah's book called Born a Crime. It's about his childhood in South Africa. This was really, really, really good. Gave it 5 stars. I don't even need to check. I remember. It's about his life growing up in South Africa. Literally, when he was born, it was illegal for black people to have sex with white people, and that's exactly what his mother did. Willingly, knowing that it was a crime, and she was like, I want to have a baby with this white guy. A lot of the story too is about her mom and just talking about serious topics like racism and how it's fucked up. I mean, obviously, I don't know what else really to say. One of the quotes that really stuck out to me, he said, there's a phrase where, you know, don't give a man a fish, teach a man to fish. But a lot of the time, in a lot of cases that he witnessed growing up, was that people didn't have fishing rods. So it's like, you gotta give the guy a fishing rod if he's gonna have a chance to even fish, you know? He could be super smart and like have all the potential in the world, but if someone doesn't like give him that chance and give him a fishing rod, he's never gonna be able to move up in the world, you know? And he's like, that he doesn't see that as a handout. I think it's more like a hand up. You're helping somebody out because you're able to. Whereas they have like almost nothing. So it's like, don't give a man a fish, teach him how to fish, but like, don't forget he needs a fishing rod, so if you got one, would you mind giving it to him? Like shit, he's got nothing. Let me just read you my fresh review. Okay, it was brief. I said, definitely got a lot of insight on life in South Africa. Trevor tells his story in a way that is informative, heartfelt, and funny, even when the topics aren't picture perfect, not even close. So some of the things, like, I definitely recommend you reading this book, even if you don't really know Trevor Noah that well. If you don't know him at all, he's a comedian. He has his own like daily show. I don't remember what channel it's on. I just watched it on YouTube. Yeah, so some of the like key stories that I thought were crazy was that like, because he was mixed, I don't want to get into too much detail, but because he was mixed, his mother couldn't be seen with him. So she would ask like her mixed friend to take Trevor to the park, and the mom would like walk behind them away as if she wasn't in their group, which I thought was interesting. A funny story was that in South Africa, there's a lot of tribes and different dialects and stuff like that, and the whites of South Africa who, you know, came to the country, kind of took power or whatever, wanted the blacks to have like English names, so, or like Eurocentric names. So a lot of the blacks didn't know like the history of the names and would just pick names that they heard of. So like, for example, they would hear about Hitler and be like, wow, like he's a guy that the white people are scared of enough that they would recruit black people to fight with them. Like, wow, he must be like a badass, you know? They don't know anything about Hitler besides like that. So they would name their kids or like their dogs or like whoever like Hitler because they were like, oh, I want them to be a badass. So his friend's name was Hitler, and he was like, Trevor was DJing for a while and his friend was a dancer, so they like got a gig at some kind of like school social event that they don't know anything about. They don't know the school. It was supposed to be like an ethnic mixer, but it ended up just being a lot of like Jewish kids. And his buddy Hitler comes out and they're cheering for him. They're like, go Hitler, while he's dancing. And it was just so unfortunate because obviously we know who Hitler is, and Jewish people would have serious offense to that. But obviously like Trevor and his buddies didn't know. Just a lot of crazy stuff like that happened in his life. There's just like hijinks that is almost unbelievable. It's also just like a lot about his identity. He identifies as black, but the people around him don't see him as black. They see him as colored, which was like another ethnic group. Basically like all the people that had ancestrally like mixed with the white people before, but now they only were with each other. So if you were like, I guess as light as me, you'd only be with other people as light as you in your own communities because they were all segregated by the government. So they were considered colored. And then people who were darker would be black. And then obviously there was white, and then a few other races mixed in, like Asians and Indians would sometimes be involved, and they would get placed like in strange, illogical ways based on the government's opinions of them. So like at one point, I'm like rambling, but like at one point, a Japanese person would be considered black. I don't remember if it was Japanese or Chinese, but like either or, because of the war, was considered black because it was bad. But then the other was considered white, like the Chinese person, for example, because they're bringing some kind of like, they want to have a good relationship with that country. But to a white or black person, like you can't, they wouldn't be able to visually tell the difference between a Japanese person and a Chinese person. So it was like, it was just all nonsense. It was racial hierarchy nonsense going on in South Africa. It's all stupid, but it was real and it happened. And it was really interesting to learn about it. Highly recommend, just go watch it. Watch it, go read it. Yes, the last book I'm gonna talk about before I let you go, or before hopefully you're still here. The last book I'm gonna talk about was a romance I got from Book of the Month. This cover, I love it. I love purple. It's called The Dating Plan. This was about a woman named Daisy Patel. She's Indian, and her old high school love, they come across each other again like 10 years after she last saw him when she was in high school. He like vanished and broke her heart and stuff like that. But they end up making a plan together to fake date because she's trying to get the aunties off her back because they're always asking her why she's not married. They're trying to like ambush her with potential suitors, and she just really just wants to do her coding job and just like have some peace. And the guy, what was his name again? Liam, it's a nice name. And Liam needs to get married to inherit a brewery that his grandfather left behind in his will. And that's like the terms of the will. So they start this plan together, and they have a history. She's pretty pissed at him about abandoning her out of nowhere with no explanation. So it's kind of like Hate to Love again. But yeah, it was okay. It was okay. I thought, let me just tell you my original thoughts, but like from what I remember, I struggled in the beginning. I thought the girl was like so hung up. Like he basically was supposed to take her to prom. He didn't show up, something happened, and he just vanished. Like, so she was pissed. But like when they re-meet each other, she's like still really hung up and upset, like as if it just fucking happened. And I was like, dude, it's been like 10 years. Like, yeah, that's shitty, but like, why are you still so like enraged? Like, it's like, don't you have other things to care about? Like, why do you still care so hard? Like, to be like, yeah, that was fucked up, like, you're an ass. And then like, that's it. But she's like so enraged, like, I don't want to speak to you. You're the worst. Like, I was like, that was really hard for me to understand in the beginning. I was like, dude, just like, it was 10 years ago. Like, move on with your life, shit, you know? But it gets better. And it was like a decently fun ride. But I wouldn't say it was like, the characters were like super deep. Let me see what my initial thoughts were. So I gave it 3 stars, which seems fair. Overall, a good book, had some great moments I enjoyed, but some plot moments I didn't like so much. Solid 3 stars. That's all I had to say. It's a romance, you know, sometimes you just read a romance for like a quick fun ride, and it's not that deep. I didn't really have that much to say about it. I wouldn't say don't read it, but I wouldn't say you need to read it. But I also like that Book of the Month is doing like a lot more diverse books and stuff, so it was cool. This was my first time reading a book with an Indian American lead. Yeah, that was fun. Like a romance. This is my first time reading a romance with an Indian American lead. So that was cool. I was telling my friends Nikki and Nikita, who are Indian, that I was like about to read this book, and I was like, oh yeah, she's like Indian and stuff, it's pretty cool, like the aunties are on our case, and they're like, I was like, maybe you guys would, maybe like, that'd be something you'd want to read, and they were like, no, like, I get enough of that auntie shit myself. Like, I don't need to like relive my own life into this. But I was like, okay. Like, it was like really personal to them. Like, this shit like is real life with like family just being really invested in your life, which is good and bad. Like, and that is expressed in the book too. Like, she doesn't like them being so nosy and trying to like force her to do something, but she also respects that she's a huge family that all care about each other. They're always there for each other. You know, especially compared to Liam, whose family was more separated and had secrets, and, you know, he didn't feel like they were there for him as much. You know, you could read it. It's not terrible. It was like decently fun. There were some things that were like annoying because like their like dating plan, like the whole fake engagement was supposed to be a secret, but like of the characters that had names and had like lines, 90% of them knew that it was fake. So it was like, why does everybody know that this arrangement is fake if you're supposed to be faking it for like the people who are gonna check the will and like, you know, they're gonna confirm that the marriage is real, you know? So why are you telling so many people that it's fake? Because they would like interview those people. I thought that was stupid. So there was like some plot things that were stupid, but other plot moments that were cute. So those are all the books that I read in January and February with a little spillover from December. I don't know how informative those comments were, but let me know if you enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget, like I said before, to give it a thumbs up and subscribe down below if you haven't already. I'll see you in the next video. Bye! I forgot to mention the elephant in the room. Ah! I got engaged! If you follow me on Instagram, you already know I posted about it a while ago. My last video where I was doing my twist out for that photo shoot was actually my boyfriend surprising me with an engagement. So I do have the pictures from them. I really want to post them. There was also a videographer that took some clips. I don't know how much he got. I don't know how good they are. I've been asking the photographer if his friend has the clips or if he put anything together because I want to post it here. He told me his buddy is having like family stuff, so I don't want to press too hard. I just want to see it, and I really want to share it with you guys. Hopefully it will be sooner rather than later. But yeah, since this video is gonna go up before that, I just wanted to say I got engaged. And I cross my fingers, hope that I'll be able to post more about that day soon. All right, that's all. Bye.